My name is Clara Mae Benton. I'm 72 years old, and I've spent most of those years in the same modest brick house on the edge of a sleepy Carolina town. I was a librarian for nearly 4 decades, quiet, careful content. My late husband, Walter, built most of the shelves in our living room with his own hands, and when he passed 6 years ago, the silence of the house grew longer and heavier, but not unbearable. I had my books, my tea, my Bible, my son Glenn, or at least I thought I had him. I wasn't expecting the phone call from his wife, Nadine. She'd never had much warmth for me, always polite but tight-lipped, as if kindness cost too much to give. That day, though, her voice was coated in a thick syrup of charm. "Clara," she said, "we've planned something special for you. A little drive out to that historic estate by the Blue Ridge. Lunch in the gardens. A real treat for Mother's Day. It'll be good for you. Healing, even." Healing. That word stuck to me like a burr. Why healing? What exactly needed fixing? Still, I smiled into the receiver. "That sounds lovely, dear." She didn't let me speak to Glenn. Said he was busy with work, but he's excited to see you, she added with her usual polished ease. "You know how sentimental he gets around Mother's Day." I didn't know that at all. Still, I packed a small bag that night. Nothing extravagant. Just a pressed linen blouse, a shawl Walter had gifted me one Easter morning, and my leather-bound Bible, the one with my handwritten notes and bookmarks nestled in Psalm 91 and Proverbs 31. I stood in front of the mirror before bed and reminded myself, they want to spend time with you. Let yourself be wanted. But a whisper inside me, soft and insistent, warned something is off. I chose not to listen. Not then. Before I continue, I want to ask all of you to please give a like to this video and subscribe to my channel, The Silent Stories, for more stories like mine. Your support means the world to me. Also, I'd love to know where you're watching from, so drop a comment telling me which country you're tuning in from. It's incredible to see how far this community of wonderful people has grown, and I'm so grateful to be able to share my story with you. They pulled into my driveway late the next morning, just as the dew had finished drying from the lawn. The car was sleek silver, far too quiet for such a bold machine. Nadine stepped out in a tan blazer, sunglasses perched high on her brow like a movie star, not a daughter-in-law picking up a 72-year-old woman for lunch. She gave me a quick, dry kiss on the cheek and opened the back door like she was offering me a ride in a cab. Glenn was driving, my boy, my only child. He didn't say much, didn't meet my eyes, just mumbled, "You look nice, Ma," and stared straight ahead, knuckles white on the steering wheel. The ride started quiet. Nadine filled it with chatter, all fluff and silk. "Fresh air will do wonders," she said. "You've seemed a little scattered lately. This little outing will be like a mental reset." Scattered, I almost corrected her. I wanted to say, I still remember every hymn by heart. I still read 2 books a week, but I bit my tongue. We drove for a long while, longer than I expected. Winding roads gave way to cracked pavement, then to gravel. The sky was a flawless blue, but I felt a storm building in my stomach. Something wasn't right. There was no estate, no sign, no other cars, just a forgotten parking lot on the edge of a nature reserve I'd never heard of. Nadine unbuckled her seatbelt and turned to me, her voice butter smooth. "Clara, the restaurant's just a short walk down that trail. Glenn and I will go ahead to check on the reservation. You rest here a bit. We'll be right back." She placed a bottle of water in my hand. "Don't tire yourself, okay?" Before I could respond, Glenn reached across the console and opened the car door. "We won't be long," he said, and then they were gone. Their car pulled out of the lot and down the winding road like it was trying not to leave tracks. I stood there in the heavy quiet, surrounded by tall trees and bird calls, the bottle of water sweating in my hand. At first I believed them. I sat on the edge of a worn wooden bench near the trailhead and waited. 5 minutes, 10. I kept glancing down the path, expecting their silhouettes to reappear, laughing, maybe carrying flowers or a little cake box. Instead, a folded slip of paper caught my eye. It was tucked beneath the passenger seat pocket of the car. They must have left it behind when they pulled away. I picked it up, confused, and opened it with trembling fingers. In Nadine's clean looping script, it read, "If she's really confused, she won't find her way back." My knees buckled, but I didn't fall. I just stood there holding that one-sentence verdict like it was a burning coal. They hadn't left me. They had abandoned me. And worse, they were watching to see if I could survive it. The trees around me stood tall and still, but the world inside me had shattered. I stared at the note again, its message searing itself into my memory like a brand. If she's really confused, she won't find her way back. This wasn't some cruel joke. It was a test, a calculated trial of my sanity, designed not with concern, but with intent. I folded the paper carefully, precisely, just to remind myself my hands weren't shaking. Then I tucked it inside the front pocket of my blouse, right next to my heart. That first step off the gravel into the dirt trail felt like stepping into another world. The trail was long and winding, surrounded by pine and oak, with no signs, no markers, no signs of life, just the sound of my own breath and the distant rustling of leaves. I didn't know exactly where I was, but I knew the sun. I knew moss grew on the north side of trees. I knew how to listen to the wind. My purse was still slung over my shoulder. No phone, no wallet, just my Bible and Walter's shawl. Maybe they thought I'd panic. Maybe they thought I'd sit down and cry, or worse, wander off into the woods in confusion. They forgot I walked 5 miles to school as a girl, rain or shine. They forgot I still hang my laundry by hand. They forgot that silence doesn't mean weakness, and age does not mean absence. So I walked because I had to. The dirt path turned into a cracked road that barely deserved the name. With every step I could feel the betrayal burning a little deeper into my bones. Glenn hadn't said a word to stop her. He didn't even hesitate. My own son, the baby I once rocked through feverish nights, the boy who used to bring me wild flowers and call me his best girl, had sat silent while his wife set the trap. My sandals kicked up dust as I moved forward. A hawk cried somewhere overhead. Sweat pooled at the base of my neck. But I didn't care. There was no time to feel anything except the fire pushing me forward. I began to hum softly, an old hymn from church, something low and steady to match my steps. Guide me, O thou great Jehovah, pilgrim through this barren land. My legs ached. My feet blistered inside my shoes. Still I kept going, because if this was a test of my mind, then let the record show I would pass it. I would pass it not with rage, not with pleas, but with sheer resolve. They wanted proof I still had clarity. Then I would give it to them, step by painful step. The sun had begun its slow descent, casting long shadows across the lonely Carolina road. The air was thick, buzzing with gnats and the high summer scent of pine sap and warm earth. My body had grown heavier with every mile, my knees stiff and my back burning, but still I walked, one foot then the next, and was no longer just about getting home, it was about not letting them win. I don't know how long I walked. Hours, maybe. My sense of time blurred. The water bottle was long gone. My mouth was dry, my thoughts slow. Still, I kept repeating a single verse under my breath. Yea, though I walk through the valley. It wasn't until I rounded a bend that I saw it, a small roadside chapel, the white paint faded and peeling, a crooked wooden sign barely readable in the evening light. I don't remember deciding to sit. My legs gave out before I could even think. I collapsed on the chapel's stone steps, leaning against the door frame, my chest rising and falling in shallow gasps. My whole body pulsed with exhaustion. That's when I heard the crunch of gravel. A truck. Old, blue, dusty. It pulled up slowly and came to a stop beside the chapel. The engine rumbled, then quieted. A man stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, with silver in his beard and a brimmed hat shading his face. He didn't rush toward me or ask a dozen questions. He just looked at me, kindly but without pity, and said, "You lost, miss?" I tried to answer, but my voice cracked. I nodded, barely. He reached into the cab and pulled out a bottle of water, extending it like an offering. Here, slow sips. I drank, and the water hit my throat like rain on parched earth. "My name's Rufus," he said, kneeling beside me. "I keep up the grounds here. Seen a lot over the years, but not too many folks sitting on chapel steps looking like they walked all the way from yesterday." Still, I said nothing. My hands were trembling again, not from fear this time, but from the overwhelming relief of being seen. "I ain't here to pry," he added. Quiet. "But I got a porch not far from here. and a rocking chair with your name on it if you want it. He helped me into the truck, not with urgency, not with judgment, just simple care, a kind of dignity no one had shown me in days. Rufus's house was small, wooden, tucked behind a line of trees. There was no grand welcome, no fuss, just comfort. A fan hummed gently in the corner. He brought me soup thick with vegetables and warmth, and let me sit in silence. I ate slowly, spoon by spoon, not realizing how long it had been since I'd last felt safe. That night he showed me to a guest room with a neatly made bed. The quilt smelled like cedar and clean cotton. He nodded toward the dresser. Bathrooms down the hall. You sleep as long as you like. If you need anything, I'll be on the porch. He didn't ask why I'd been abandoned. He didn't suggest I call someone. He didn't treat me like a problem to be solved. He just let me be. And for the first time since Nadine's voice had slithered through my phone line, I felt like a person again. Rufus drove me back the next morning, just after sunrise. The truck rumbled softly down the country road, its windows cracked open to let in the cool morning air. Neither of us said much. I think he understood that what I needed most was silence, the good kind, the healing kind, not the cruel, hollow silence I had been left in days earlier. When we reached my house, it looked the same as always, white porch railing, rose bushes just starting to bloom, a wind chime tapping gently in the breeze. But as soon as I stepped inside, I knew something was off. It was too clean. Not lovingly clean. Not my clean. No, this was the sterile, sharp smell of industrial lemon cleaner, artificial and biting, the kind they use in hospitals and public restrooms. It burned the back of my throat. My home has always smelled of cinnamon, paper, and the lavender sachets I keep in the linen drawers. This was different. Wrong. I paused in the doorway, letting my eyes adjust. The rug near the fireplace was misaligned just slightly, but I noticed the picture frames on the mantel were rearranged. A glass bowl that once held old matchbooks now sat empty. The house looked like someone had been here, someone trying to cover their tracks. The back of my neck prickled. I walked slowly, deliberately toward the study, my sanctuary, the one place in the world I've always kept in perfect order. My desk was untouched at first glance, but I saw the scratches near the bottom drawer's keyhole, tiny, silvery half-moons of damage. Someone had tried to break in. That drawer held everything. My marriage license, Walter's Army, discharge papers, the deed to the house, my living will. And now someone had tried to pry it open. I didn't need to guess who. My hands trembled as I sat down at the desk and turned on my old laptop. It blinked awake slowly, like it had just woken from a nap. I logged into my online banking portal and checked my profile. My name, my balance, the quiet little nest egg Walter and I had built over 50 years of simple living. And then I saw it. Under authorized users, just below my own name, was a new addition. Nadine Benton. The date beside it? 2 days ago, the day before the outing. I stared at the screen. No money had been moved. Not yet, but I could see it as clear as daylight. This wasn't about memory loss. This wasn't about confusion or care. This was about control. About access. About slowly, methodically shifting power into their hands, using my love, my trust, and my silence as their tools. A slow anger settled over me. Not hot and wild, but cold. Steady. The kind of anger that keeps a ledger. The kind that balances columns and tracks every lie with a pen. I stood up and went to the closet. Behind an old box of winter coats, I found what I needed. A fresh, blank ledger notebook, the same kind I used for decades at the library and the church. Crisp lines. Blue binding, clean paper. I returned to the kitchen table, flipped to the first page, and wrote in neat, deliberate cursive. Date May 10th. Event at a remote location under false pretense. Asterisk, asterisk. Note from Nadine recovered, implies cognitive test. Date May 11th. Event returned home. Unfamiliar chemical smell throughout residence. Asterisk, asterisk. Personal belongings disturbed. Desk drawer tampered with. Date May 11th. Event discovered unauthorized user added to online bank account. Nadine Benton. Asterisk, asterisk. Each entry was a brick, each fact a stone. I wasn't just documenting my pain. I was building something, a wall of truth, a defense made not of accusations or emotion, but of cold, irrefutable evidence. They wanted to test my mind. They were about to learn just how sharp it still was. That night, I didn't sleep, not because I was afraid, but because I was planning. I sat at my kitchen table beneath the soft yellow glow of the old hanging light, that blank ledger slowly filling with the quiet truth of what had been done to me. I wasn't crying anymore. That part was finished. I was doing what I'd always done when things didn't make sense, when the world got messy or cruel. I was keeping records. I wrote in that book with the same steady hand I once used to log every book loan at the library, every donation at church, every receipt from the school bake sale. Line by line, day by day, I captured what had happened. And I wasn't done. I needed more than just paper. I needed voices, their voices. So I climbed the creaky stairs to the attic and found Walter's old toolbox. Inside, beneath rusted pliers and a pair of garden shears, was the cassette recorder he used when he interviewed local veterans for a historical project back in '91. It still worked. I popped in a fresh tape from a half-forgotten pack in the desk drawer, tested the buttons, and smiled when the red light blinked. Then I hid it, tucked deep in a stack of guest towels inside the hallway linen cabinet, microphone pointed toward the sitting room. The house was quiet enough that it would catch everything. It didn't matter if it sounded grainy. I wasn't recording music. I was recording truth. 2 days later, right on cue, Nadine came by. She let herself in with her spare key, something we'd once given her for emergencies only. She carried a smile like a weapon, all polished teeth and smooth, patronizing tones. "I just wanted to check in, Clara," she said. "I've been worried since your little episode." I tilted my head like I didn't understand. "Episode? You know how confused you seemed that day." She clucked her tongue. "It's okay. These things happen." She offered to help organize my papers. "You've got so many important documents, and things can get overwhelming when the mind starts to slip." She said it gently, like she was offering a kindness, but it felt like a rope tightening around my neck. I let her rifle through my folders while I played the part of the distracted old woman, asking the same question twice, wrinkling my brow like I couldn't quite remember where I'd put my reading glasses. She bought it. She was eager to believe it. Then she stepped into the hallway to make a call. I could hear her just faintly from the cabinet door. "She's getting worse," she whispered. She thought Walter's tax return from '86 was a love letter. "We'll file next week. No way a judge questions this." She laughed softly. "It's basically done." When she left, her perfume lingered long after, sweet, cloying, artificial. But I didn't mind, because the cassette was still recording. Because now I had her voice, her plan, her glee. I pressed stop, ejected the tape, labeled it in neat block letters. May 13th, Nadine call. Confirmation of intent. I placed the tape inside the metal cash box Walter used to store our war bonds. I slid the latch closed. That night I logged a new entry in the ledger. My handwriting steady, my mind clearer than it had been in weeks. They thought I was weak. They mistook my quiet for confusion, my stillness for surrender. They were wrong, and now I had more than memory. I had proof. The proof I had was enough to expose their plan, but not enough to stop it. At least not yet. I needed one more piece, something undeniable, something they couldn't talk their way out of or dismiss as confusion. So I set the bait. It was late afternoon when I picked up the phone and called Glenn. I let my voice shake just a little like a leaf in the wind. "Glenn, sweetheart, I was up in the attic trying to find some old photos of your daddy, and I came across something I think might be valuable. One of those old metal boxes looks like bonds or certificates. I don't know." I paused, let silence bloom on the line like doubt. "I just don't feel right having it here. Not in my state. Would you and Nadine come by and just take a look? Keep it safe, maybe?" There was a pause, longer than it should have been. Then he answered, syrupy smooth, "Of course, Mama. Don't worry. We'll be over soon. Just don't touch anything, okay? We'll take care of it." Exactly what I needed to hear. While I waited for them, I made tea, cleaned the front room, and I plugged a little black USB charger into the wall outlet near the attic ladder. It looked like any ordinary phone charger, but it wasn't. It was a camera. A small, sharp eye pointed square at the pull-down attic stairs. A gift from Camille, the legal advocate I'd quietly contacted after reviewing the cassette tape. She'd listened without blinking, reviewed my ledger, and nodded like someone who had seen too much already. "You don't need to confront them," she said. "You need to corner them. Quietly." Now I was about to do just that. When Glenn and Nadine arrived, I greeted them in my favorite robe, soft, faded pink. My hair was loosely pinned back, my Bible clutched to my chest. I looked every bit the part they wanted me to play, frail, vulnerable, forgetful. I led them to the base of the attic ladder. "It's just up there. I don't remember locking it, or maybe I did. I'm sorry. I feel so silly." Nadine patted my arm with a grin too wide to be kind. "It's all right, Clara. We're here to help." I stood back, watching from the hallway as she climbed. The metal box was right there, placed in clear sight, but empty, utterly empty. She opened it, and I heard the disappointment in her breath. She turned to Glenn, not knowing the little camera light was blinking, catching every whisper. "Don't worry. We'll get what we need when we have control. She's slipping, and we both know it. That box is just one of many." Later, after they left, after their smiles and reassurances had faded, I unplugged the charger, loaded the video, and watched it play. There she was, my daughter-in-law, leaning over the attic rafter, whispering strategy like it was a business deal, like my life was an asset waiting to be signed over. I didn't cry. I simply labeled the file, "Attic Visit," full video, Nadine confession. And just like that, the trap snapped shut. I had the paper, I had the tape, and now I had their faces. Everything I needed was in that old tin box. But I didn't feel victorious. Not yet, because this wasn't about revenge. It was about dignity, and I was going to take mine back, piece by piece. The letter they received a week later wasn't handwritten. It came in a thick white envelope printed on the official letterhead of Camille's firm. The subject line was "Cold, Emotionless, Reconciliation Meeting, Estate Concerns. Regarding Miss Clara Mae Benton, I imagine Nadine thought she had won, that I was finally caving, that I'd be sitting there trembling, asking for forgiveness, handing over papers she didn't earn and rights she didn't deserve. She didn't know that every word, every smile, every whisper she'd left behind had built a case stronger than any accusation. We met in Camille's downtown office. She and I sat on one side of a long mahogany table. Nadine and Glenn entered together, dressed like they were heading to a charity gala. Nadine's smile was that same tight, polished curve she always wore when she thought she was the smartest person in the room. Camille didn't speak right away. She let the silence stretch, let them squirm in their chairs. Then, with perfect calm, she placed a document on the table and slid it toward Nadine. "This," Camille said, "is a court-certified protective order. Effective immediately, neither of you may file for conservatorship, power of attorney, or make any legal decisions on behalf of Miss Benton. Any violation of this order will be met with criminal charges." Nadine blinked, her hand twitched. "But surely there's been a misunderstanding." Camille said nothing. She simply reached into her bag and set down the cassette recorder. Then she pressed play. Nadine's voice filled the room, scratchy but unmistakable. "She's really losing it. We can file for conservatorship next week." Glenn crumpled inward, like the air had left his body. He didn't even look at me. Nadine opened her mouth, but no sound came.